Hello, this is Dale. This is Tuesday, and Mike's joining me, and he's almost as happy as this guy appears to be. Hello, Mike.
Yes, I'm really happy.
Right. Yes,
See?
that's his happy look.
Yes. That's
So
my happy face. Yeah, that's
we
about as good
we
as it
are going
gets.
to get into this discussion with the sheriff about what the commissioners had to say in the little back room, despite what Arthur O'Hare said in the Daily Courier and not so Daily Courier. But first, we're going to play another because this is a political show. We talked to you about politics and about some of the trends that we see. So here's one of the trends we've been seeing recently. The commissioners, especially in the weekly business session, are pretty much on the run when it comes to people criticizing them. We've got their number. Each of them is zeroed in, metaphorically speaking, to the NSA, and we do have a really good idea now, and you have an increasing idea of what it is they're doing on a daily basis. Today was an unusual day in their general discussion, and there was nothing at all that the two commissioners, because Simon wasn't there because he's out traveling again and representing us to the best of his ability, and they just had nothing controversial to say. That's very, very rare. In half an hour, they say nothing controversial. On the other hand, what are some of the things they might have talked about, Mike, but didn't?
Well, let's see here. The manor development.
Yes.
More economic development stuff. Pitching money at companies that are very successful already.
Yes.
Road dollars for
But they could
sheriff
have talked
deputies.
about that, but they didn't.
Yes.
12 years. 12 years, Mike. 12.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. 12 years. I was a slave for 12 years. Yes.
All right. All right. All right.
So, people aren't going to know what that is. There was, yes, Keith. I didn't know that the list needed to be entirely complete. That's all.
Well, but this is a big story.
Since Keith. Yeah, that Keith Heck let it out of the bag. Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't going to be, hey, we'll continue this conversation later. It wasn't one of those things. No, Keith Heck mentioned here at the admin session last Thursday that, in 12 years, that North Valley Industrial Park is going to revert to the city.
What?
I'll see you after the weekend. See you later. Yes.
This is the last thing he said. Well, anything else? Okay, goodbye. Hey. And Sarah Walker saying, no. Wait a minute. I've never seen her so dumbfounded. It was like, no, that can't be right. And he says, we'll talk with Wally. Right? So apparently this isn't happening. What? So we talked with Wally.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, so Wally, what's the deal about this? We've poured millions of dollars into this huge deal. It's supposed to be this, it's going to be an economic engine and it's going to really ramp up and we got to build this overpass and the thing and the people are going to come and it's going to be thousands and thousands of people, as Larry Graves said about the attendance at his last airport days. Why, there were thousands of people. There were not thousands of people there, Larry. We were there. There was a decent showing, but it wasn't thousands of people. Okay, whatever, I think. So, it's really going to be a big deal. Well, as it turns out, according to Keith, in 12 years, this whole thing is just going to be given to the city. Really? After we spent all of this money and state money and county money, we're going to give it away? This is a big question. This is a huge deal. So I talked with Wally Hicks and I said, what's the case on this? This is what Keith Heck said. So you want to tell him what his response was, Mike?
Well, you spoke to him, so you'd be better to tell him than I. But the gist that I got from Dale, this is making the complete circle here. That I don't know. I've been looking into that for several months, and I haven't. I'm not down to. I don't have it. I don't have it pinpointed yet.
No,
So he's still
what's this several
the
months to
very
do?
best thing. If you're curious about this, yes, because he's been the county council for several months. So
Just
that's
5 months.
almost exactly the same.
So what started this? Why would he suddenly look into this? Why? Why? After all this time and millions of dollars, he's looking into it?
Well, however, regardless of what Wally says, if you want to know the truth and the finer points of this particular situation, you're going to have to go look it up yourself.
Well, I want to know the truth and the finer points. Okay. Yes, I want to know.
Okay. Yes. All right.
So as they say on social media, Dale, turn it over right now, Mr. Jones.
They do?
Well, tell us the diameter of the wheels.
I have not. Oh, yes. No, I wonder where would you go? I mean, does the recorder's office have something to say about that? But no, probably not, because this is some sort of intergovernmental agreement that took place whenever this North Valley Industrial Park project began. Or even before that, when they were drawing up the the plot for it,
Well, the plot definitely
perhaps it goes back that far.
So
I'm sorry.
The plot definitely sickens in this case. Here's the thing: if it's true that this whole deal, after all this county taxpayer money, is just going to be handed to the city, just give it away to them. What? Really? So. What doesn't it make you think? Go ahead. No, it doesn't. Apparently.
No, I'm just saying I have a theory about that whole situation and why it is that we were probably fat with timber money at the time, and it was like, hey, yes, we'll do this magnanimous thing, and of course we will be able to use it. I mean, they probably figured the thing was going to be up and running in a couple of years, and that they were going to, get fat on it for, 10 or 15 or 20 years, and then they'd turn it over to the city. Well, I think it's questionable at this point if the thing's even going to be done in 12 years.
But the big point, and Mike's right, the big point is, however, why are we spending any more time and effort on something that's going to be turned over to the city? Just today, the commissioners were talking about this Infrastructure Finance Authority. We told you about, I know, some acronyms is boring, but this is pretty important. And Cheryl's so happy, why we're getting this money. Well, wait a minute. Why are we putting any effort in this thing if we're just going to turn it over to the city? And why are we spending any county money on something that's going to be, it's like, you're repairing the suit or something, and then you're just going to give it to your nephew. Why would you do that? I mean, okay, so you want him to have a nice suit. That's not a
Dale. Yeah. Dale, that's, not very nice of you. You won't even buy your nephew a suit. What's wrong with you?
Not my nephew.
Oh,
that's
Dale.
Sure. Okay. No, suits for drug addicts. Forget that. Anyway, so bad analogy, but badcounty.com. But the point is that we shouldn't be spending any money at all. All money spending should come to a screeching halt right now.
Yes.
But Cheryl just can't spend it fast enough.
So far.
Right.
Yes.
So here's the thing we started off talking about. Now that we're watching them carefully and we have a really good idea of what they're doing, and because I sit through these boring meetings, now there has to be a reaction. I always say when people say, well, I'm going to say this at the weekly business session, I always say to them, what are they going to respond? Because if you know how they're going to respond, then you know how to head them off at the pass, right? And so...
Is that what you do, Dale? Okay. I didn't realize that.
Well, that's why sometimes their answers are just, nothing, or you stink. And this is the only answer they have, because they've already said, well, don't tell us this, this, and this, because we already know that that's false. They do it sometimes anyway. The best Keith Eck could come up with that one time is that videotape can't record incorrectly. Really? That's the best you can do? Okay. So So they're retreating into themselves. Now, what they started to do, this is the trend I was trying to tell you about. We're going to get to the sheriff in a minute. So what they've started to do is they'll take the vote in the little back room with no input from the public at all. You cannot speak. They don't want to hear from you. And then they'll go to the weekly business session and have a ceremonial vote, which they call ratification. Ratification? What the heck does that mean? So I asked Wally Hicks, what does ratification mean? Well, it means they're agreeing that they already agreed on this. No, what? Okay, this is fake. This is just glad handing. This is just a ceremony. They've already made the decision. One time, it was brought up during other. The section called other is when they can bring up anything that they want to, and it doesn't have to be on the agenda. You don't know they're going to say anything about it. They don't have to tell you what the topic's going to be, and they can just bring up something. Well, in a recent meeting, Simon Hare brought up something. It wasn't on the agenda, and he brought it up and said, let's vote on this. What, really? Right now? You just brought it up. Nobody's here to speak about it one way or another. And what it was about, guess what? It was about hemp. And hemp that is intent on taking over marijuana. Now, you may not like marijuana. I don't want to smoke anything. But really, you're going to introduce hemp in here. Am I wrong? Isn't hemp illegal? And if hemp is being grown on an experimental basis in this area on Cheryl Walker's property, is she growing illegal crops on her property? Or allowing that to be done? Really? So she was involved in saying,
go ahead. Question.
Okay, she was involved.
Legit question.
Yes, she was involved in this vote. She should have recused herself because she stands to profit from this. Okay, so anyway, they took the vote right there, or they said they were going to, but they didn't have the document. So even the commissioners balked a little bit at the fact that there was no document. So what they decided to do is they said, well, we'll put it in a read file. They said this right in front of us. We'll put it in a file. Each of us will come and look at it, and then we'll sign it. I went to Wally afterwards. I said, wait a minute. Why would they bother ever voting on anything again? Just put every vote in the read file.
Right.
That way you don't have to. Nobody could say anything because the other section is long after the mere citizens. They're supposed to be our public service long after we've said anything. So we can't speak at all. And then if they're going to vote by putting it in the read file, they still don't get any input from us. Why, you could come to our office.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question about the other designation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do they come up with the other? Does one commissioner say, hey, I'd like to put something on there, but I can't really designate it here yet? Because if they have a conversation amongst themselves about what's going to be on there, then they've just met in a quorum to have a conversation about what's going to be. Or do they do that? Is that something they do?
How
do they determine what's going to be discussed?
Our inside source tells us right there, right in front of them, that they do that all the time. What is the motto of this administration? Keith Heck has said it 3 times. I know we're breaking the law, and I don't care. That is the motto of this regime, administration. I know we're breaking the law, and I don't care.
Okay.
So yeah, good response.
I'm not any clearer on the idea of how they get the other on the agenda.
Anytime they want to. They don't have to tell us about it. They don't have to talk to each other. They just say, I want to talk about something on other, and I've never, ever, ever seen them vote on it. But that was the intention here. Look, nobody said anything to say about it. Yeah.
So, wow, that's a lag. So other is always a part of the agenda. And they can just throw something into other if they like. Is that
anytime they want to.
Gotcha.
And I think normal or honest people would try to avoid doing that.
Yeah. And so if they vote on something in the back room, let's say they encounter a bunch of natives with pitchforks in the ambassador later the following day.
They've already decided.
If they've already decided, then okay, yes. But is it possible that they could, say, have a vote and have it go the other way and have that change the outcome of the whole
It
thing?
is possible.
Or is it already a done deal because they?
Well, it is already a done deal, and sometimes they've already signed the document. This is not the way the system's supposed to work. We're supposed to know about things, well, yes, and we're supposed to have some kind of input, but we don't get that. So now the newest trend is, this is deciding in the little back room with no input from the public at all, except, I don't know, maybe the Rotary Club, or the Chamber of Commerce, or their personal friends. So no input from you and me, from the people who are watching the show. No input from you at all. You don't even get a chance to speak. Right? And you don't even know that's going to happen in most cases unless we tell you, because you're not going to read about that in the Courier. And so then they go and they have a ceremonial vote. They hate it to be called, but that's what it is. What else is it? They've already voted. They've already signed it. It's already happening. And now they're going to ratify. I said, Wally, what's ratification means? It's a large rat. What does that mean? Ratification. It's just a way to avoid us. And it's not, I don't think it's legal. But, who's got the money to challenge that? And the state's not going to do anything about it. They don't do anything about it when they catch them red-handed breaking the law, and we give them the tape, right? Okay, so
I really wonder about what is the function of the ethics department at the state? I mean,
they made it clear.
If they're not investigating anything that happens down here that seems to be relatively consistent behavior, then what is it that they are doing?
The Ethics Commission, I went there. Sandy Casanelli went there. I asked them in person, what is it that you do if it's not governed ethics? They said, well, we deal with things like executive sessions. Really? Is this it? You don't deal with ethics? No, not really. No, not really. And Simon here, he knows this. We've told him many times, and he'll always say, well, take it to the Ethics Commission, Mr. Matthews.
Right.
He knows that they won't do anything. We're on our own, okay? So we're just going to have to count this as a benefit. We are on our own. Salem is going to do nothing to help us for a variety of reasons, mostly because they think that we marry our sisters. They just don't want to have anything to do with this. So it's only up to us. Now, you have a solution in a year. You can elect different goofy people into these offices. Okay? That's the only solution we have. That's it. Sorry, bud, but that's it. Okay, so now what's happening is a new trend. This is a new thing that just happened. They're not bothering to take this thing where they've already decided and already signed it. They're not bothering to take it to the weekly business session and do a ceremonial signing. They're not bothering to do that. What do you mean they're not bothering to do that? Well, listen carefully to this meeting from Thursday.
We have the one is ratification of order 2015-015, and this is basically a paperwork process.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the ratification of the IFA grant for the North Valley Park that
We
talk
approve.
about magical fast turnaround. They say the government bureaucracy cannot move fast. We submitted it Friday. We were notified Tuesday afternoon that they had approved it.
Oh, really?
That is just, phenomenal.
Not bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So yes, this is great.
Okay.
That has to go to admin.
It has to go to admin, yes.
No, it's listed that you can do a motion here today.
So we can do a motion here today?
We can do a motion today.
Okay. So we don't have to.
Yes, please do a motion today.
Please do a motion today. I move that we approve.
On the idea that it has already been dated 28th of May, we did the two, Commissioner myself and Commissioner Walker, we did sign this. So we are basically ratifying that it has been
This
signed.
is the ratification. Yeah. My motion is to ratify the order number 2015-015, the matter of the Infrastructure Finance Authority grant for a preliminary engineering plan for the North Valley Industrial Park. and delegation of the assigning authority for the grant application and grant agreement and related documents.
And I will happily second that. So it's been moved and seconded. It is ratification. It has already been signed. It was dealt with earlier on as far as the signing of it goes. So, roll call is Commissioner Walker.
Yes.
Yes. Myself, yes. So unanimous of the two commissioners here, who are also the two commissioners that signed the original order back on the 28th of May. Okay, good. Anything else?
Anything else?
Now, this may seem like a really small thing, but this is not small. Now, they don't have to involve the public at all. Isn't that what they want?
What's this? I'm sure it is. What was this grant? How much money is that, and what are they going to do with it?
Yeah, that's the IFA grant, which we started talking about to beef up the sewer system out at the Merlin Industrial Park.
Mm.
And so your state dollars are going straight into Cheryl Walker's hands so she can build this thing up there and then give it away to the city.
Hmm. Well, you know,
the justification that she used for that. This is important. This is why they don't want any questions from us. I'm sitting there and I can't say anything. I'd like to help you guys, but I can't. Okay, because they'll toss me out right away. Boy, they just can't wait for me to say something, and I don't. But the justification that she gave to the Infrastructure Finance Authorities was to state, and the new person that's in there probably doesn't even know this. She said, well, the school district is fully on board. No, they're not. That's a big, fat lie. And the school board was not happy to hear that Cheryl was writing that they were fully on board, because they're not fully on board. So guess what? The Infrastructure Finance Authority buys into this big story by Cheryl Walker, and she's going to get the money. Well, for what purpose? So we can give it away? It all stinks. It all just stinks. There's only one solution, everybody. We got to replace these guys. They're not going to ever learn a lesson.
But okay, you know, this is just me not understanding what's going on here. But what difference would it make if it was Cheryl getting the grant and doing this thing at the North Valley Industrial Park, or the city getting the grant and doing this thing at the North Valley Industrial Park? I mean, to some degree, it's our money because it's state money.
That's correct.
What's the difference? What is the difference?
One of the differences I'd like to believe is that they're not going to claim something which is totally, absolutely, completely false, which is that there's anybody on board except for this board, because they're not.
You know what? I still don't understand what difference it makes whether or not the school is on board or not. I don't understand.
Have to show there's a need for the thing beyond their conjecture.
Well, apparently they either have shown that there is a need, or they've given enough proof to the state for them to go, okay, yeah, here's some money.
But she said in these meetings that the main proof that she had that there was a need was the school board was fully on board with this.
Mm-hmm.
She said that.
Well, I just don't see a whole lot of people getting all bent out of shape because the commissioner brought some grant money into town and probably put some money in the pocket of a local contractor.
All right, it just is other things the state money could have been spent on that we could use more than beefing up. Well, they also said that it was a failing intersection, and if you've been through exit 61, everybody knows that's not a failing intersection. Never was a failing. They said, well, pretty much on a daily basis. On a daily basis, it's backing up onto the highway and slowing up the highway. That's just completely false. It's a big dang lie.
I've never seen it.
Sure,
I've been up and taken. Yeah, I've been up there and taken that exit a ton of times. I've never been down that where I wasn't at least the first or second in line at the stop sign. In other words, nobody's behind you.
It all depends on this. Are you okay with liars and cheaters? I mean, liars and cheaters prospering from this and looking terrific, or do you go, oh, well, it really doesn't matter to me? If it really doesn't matter to you, then why bother voting? Why are you watching this show? Really? I mean, sorry, but I mean, oh, liars and cheaters, why? They're my favorite kind of people. There are people in this area, that's the case. I don't like it. And so I don't approve of that kind of stuff. Oh, they're bringing money into the area, so it's okay. Go ahead and lie and cheat. You think that's Jesus whispering in their ear? It's okay to lie and cheat. Why, I'm
No,
the prime.
and that isn't my point.
I know that.
My point is, regardless of how you spin this,
yeah,
people are going to get mad, or they're not going to get mad based on whether they can draw a straight line to their own wallet. And in this particular situation, it's a pretty convoluted course.
Okay.
So,
well,
yeah,
you're right. You're absolutely right. There's probably, I would think, there's a certain percentage of our audience that says, I really don't care. Okay.
Well,
we'll at least tell you about it.
But however, there's also, a case to be made that, if these guys didn't go after this money in whatever way they went after it, that somebody else in some other county would go after the money, and that money be going there instead of here.
That is their prime argument. Just because we've lied and cheated on,
I understand.
And cheated on this, what difference does it make to you? We got the money.
Well, and I would rather them make the argument that, hey, we've been looking at this North Valley Industrial Park, and it seems to be a hole in Josephine County that we pour money into, and it isn't really amounting to much. How about if we stop doing that and start looking for grants and whatever that we can pour into something that's actually going to do something for the county?
I'm with you, brother. Absolutely.
Well, no, but this is how people lie. But the thing is, in order for me to get to this place where I can understand all this, I have to understand why. Okay, because I didn't understand what the thing is with the school. Why does the school have to be on board? Everybody kept talking about these. The school is fully on board. Oh no, they're not, or whatever. And I didn't have a full understanding of it. Now I have a better understanding. That they needed that little story to give to the state, so that the state would then say, okay, now you can have the money.
It's the purpose.
They were trying to jump through hoops.
Okay. All right. That's good. Yeah. That's good. That's all right. Now, one other thing that happened, and we said we were going to do this. We even did a promo about it.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened in the little back room that the sheriff didn't know anything about and hadn't been told till we went and told him about it was gave him a heads up right after the meeting, minutes after that meeting, and he hadn't heard of it then. And you'll hear during this meeting, the commissioners are saying, well, maybe we should talk with the sheriff. We should find out what he thinks, because Arthur O'Hare, the finance director, is laying out what can be done and can't be done with the money. I don't like that. So anyway, so we sat down with the sheriff and we explained to him what the alternatives were according to Arthur O'Hare. Now, one of them is the sheriff gets no money. No extra money, and does with it what he wishes. Well, you can see he doesn't think that's going to happen.
Yes.
And number two is,
I can do whatever I want with that no money? Really?
Yeah. Well, maybe. Okay. The other one is, according to Arthur O'Hare, we give the sheriff $1 million. Really? Where'd that come from, Arthur? And he gets a couple of deputies out of it. I don't really think it's up to the commissioners, but it's not. But okay. Or we give it to the sheriff and he spreads that over a couple of years. Now, Arthur O'Hare told the Daily Courier that this is a bridge to nowhere. Hey, thanks for your opinion. I'd rather you gave it as a citizen than as the finance director of the county. And of course, the Courier dutifully wrote it up 3 weeks late, but they finally did tell somebody about it, and then they poisoned the well of the story. And then the third option is you give $1 million to the sheriff, and then he only can spend it in about 3 years. What? This is the third. Oh, okay. So now that we've explained that to the sheriff, we've got a couple of questions for him, and this is going to last somewhere around 12 minutes. Just relax, and you'll hear what he has to say about this. What's your general opinion, first, about them talking about all your money, at second, about the $1 million, and third, about kind of putting some restrictions on this already?
Yeah, I called Arthur O'Hare this morning to speak with him. He had a seminar or a conference call he had to take. So I'm actually going to be speaking with him this afternoon again about it. He's responding, I'm sure, to inquiries from the commissioners, and what those inquiries are, or exactly how they're phrasing them. I don't know. I'm not sure because I haven't seen copies of those. I have had one correspondence from Mr. O'Hare, so about that. But it's if the money's come my way, I certainly hope that our office has the. Well, I know we have the authority, but I hope we're given latitude in how we want to spend the monies.
Yeah, I would wonder what your reaction would be, or let's say, why aren't they coming to you and asking you what your opinion is about how you should do
Arthur
this?
has.
Oh,
yeah, he has. Yeah, he sent me a
so
couple of
perhaps
emails.
some of these scenarios that he's voicing are ones that you've already talked to him about, or?
No, I haven't spoken to him directly about these. I sent an email back to him in reference to, actually I started it off with what I thought, of different ways, 4 different options of how to do it. And then he's, made sure the numbers were, I'm sure, correct and accurate. And he's kind of spawned off of those a little bit. But I haven't spoken to him since. On Thursday, I spoke with him and said, actually via email, so I didn't speak with him. Via email, I said, let's talk about this on Monday. So so I can get a better grip on it. It was a busy weekend, so we haven't done that yet. But I did call him this morning, and we're scheduled for this afternoon.
You've spoken with him, but the commissioners kept saying during this meeting, we need to get in touch with the sheriff. We need to talk with the sheriff. Have you talked with the sheriff? Have they talked with you?
The commissioners?
Yes. Since Thursday.
No, not since Thursday.
And when your email exchange took place, and I'm assuming that on Thursday morning, this meeting happens at 9 o'clock.
Yes, it does.
So it would have, in order for him to take the suggestions that you had into that meeting, he would have had to have received it and had time to read it before that took place. So it was probably later in the day.
It was not before 9 o'clock.
Yeah, there you go.
And you were gone on Friday. Right. What do you think in general about the idea that it was stated at the budget committee meeting, and you were there for some of them, that there was money stored in an emergency fund, which seems prudent, that could be as much as $8 million. The number keeps changing depending upon who you're speaking with. And now there's absolutely not a single word from the commissioners or from the finance director about any of that money. They're only talking about new money that's coming in. What do you make of that? Because we're baffled.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know any of those numbers. I really don't. The 8 million, the 4 million, the 3 million. I don't know. I've been told that there was 4.3 million, something to that effect, in the rural road funds, and that's what I was. And then there was a possibility I could get some of that, and that's when I made my request, and that's what I made it for. Some of those monies.
We talked just a little bit earlier about a previous sheriff. He had a somewhat similar name to yours,
Yeah.
Dave Daniel, and that he had actually gone to court and got a judgment in his favor as an elected official. Look, commissioners, thanks for your input. Your job is to give me the money. I'll decide how to spend it. What do you think in general about that?
I spoke with Dave specifically about that shortly after I came into office, because I wanted to, know a little bit more about how that process worked. And he won that initial lawsuit. However, I don't know. I think it was an appeal process or something that happened. It went to the next level after he had left office or was away from the office, one or the other, and lost that. So the appeal of the second go around of that initial victory in his case turned out the other way.
So did that start with a local court and then it went to a statewide
I'm not
court?
exactly sure.
He's asking this for a specific reason.
I don't know.
We just talked with Wally. We talk with him every Sunday, Wally Hicks, about the charter. And one of the questions we asked is, how does county legal counsel go to court, sometimes representing against the people who elected him, and change something or challenge something without a local court case? I mean, in one case, they had to go up to Portland to get.
Yeah, there was a case having to do with the commissioners and the compensation that they receive that cites a case that took place in Lane County Transit versus Lane County. And so we were wondering, obviously they went and referenced that case, but what was the you know, what was the beginning? What was the genesis of that process? Did somebody come in and say, hey, you know, across the board here, we need to examine what we're, how we're paying people and what the law is behind that? Or was that something that the commissioners originated? Hey, county council, will you please go look at this and see if you can shoot it down somehow? Because it's, you know, stated in the charter that it's, you know. So we were just wondering about
that's where the case is. About that particular situation, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
That's not law enforcement.
Yes.
That law enforcement's what I do.
One of the things we've noticed is that the charter does seem to have more of an effect on everyday life and certainly everyday politics than most people imagine. You've talked with Wally Hicks about some of these things, about your funding, about the commissioners, about the county in general. Do you have an idea, do the two of you have an idea of where you stand politically with funding?
I haven't spoken with him specifically about funding. To be honest with you, most of my conversations with Mr. Hicks, Councilor Hicks, is just talking about liability and covering, you know, the sheriff's office, you know, back, and that sort of thing. I've asked him for assistance with a particular security agency in town that been giving us some trouble with via some complaints and that sort of thing. So really nothing funding wise with Mr. Hicks.
One of the things that came out in the article over the weekend in the Courier written by Jim Moore was that there were some things quoted from the finance director and some things that were written as part of fact in the story by Jim Moore. And some of them are things that we've discussed already. And one of them is, well, you know, you really shouldn't be putting this money in there because it's only going to last for 1 year. And since you've got to train people for 9 months, it's just sort of useless. Now, you've talked about that already. What is the solution to that? Although we have talked about it, what is your solution to that?
Well, we'll open it up for lateral positions as fast as we can, you know, right away, and try and get those laterals that don't need to be trained. If we can get them, great. If we get some qualified applicants, great. Sometimes, you know, some of those laterals might be somebody else's problem. I don't want problems when hiring like that. So maybe they might have to be new. But these are mights and maybes. You know, the money is, if there's money there, and we can create, you know, try and get our own game going here, like other agencies that have permanent funding, Jackson County and Medford, that sort of thing. They're hiring, you know, so many. We got to get into that game to try and get some of those qualified applicants is really the goal.
You specifically chose your liaison, your county liaison. It was going to be Keith Heck because it was before. You specifically chose Cheryl Walker.
I asked Cheryl if she would. Yeah, I also spoke with Simon Harris at the same time, but I spoke with Cheryl first.
So, however, in this case, she has not been in touch with you about this thing that they talked about at the meeting, saying it was vital to get in touch with you. Your reaction?
Number one, there's time. That's a meeting on Thursday. I was gone Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Today is Monday. Obviously, I missed our first meeting with you because I was out handling an incident. So I think there's room for those communications to begin, and that's also with Arthur O'Hare. So again, who I'm going to speak with and did already this morning. So I think it's just, you know, we can't, some things you can fast track things or whatnot, but you know, this decision doesn't need to be made or how that happens by them. I don't think there's any huge crush. I think there's probably another week or so. So that's my reaction to it is, you know, I try to work as best I can with the Board of County Commissioners. I think historically there's been, I don't want to say a lack of communication, but they've been butting heads with the sheriff, or the sheriff's been butting heads with them, and I don't know which way it is. So I'm trying to keep an open dialogue the best I can for the benefit of the county, because I think That's really, really important. And so just being professional and try to, communicate.
It seems like being at the weekly business session last Wednesday, that when you got up and made your case, that the commissioners, none of the scenarios they were voicing were scenarios in which this works. They were all, negative scenarios.
I realize that.
So my suspicion, of course, is that they don't really want to do this, and they are throwing these out there to see if they'll get any traction, understanding that there is public opinion that may be wanting them to use these road dollars to fund you, and that this is just sort of a political game to find out, put your finger up in the air and find out which way the wind is blowing.
I want to know where they're sticking that finger before they put it up in the air.
What's your, if you had to gauge which way the wind is blowing at this point in time, what would you say?
Oh, I think I had that sense that you were talking about too when I was up there speaking with them, that there was kind of a lot of negative. But I think it's really important, and I think they also believe, I'm guessing, but that they believe it is definitely, it's an important enough issue that they need to be educated about the whole process of whether this is really beneficial, because they're, I don't know if it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. And these are funds that are set aside for rural roads. We're going to be having deputies on the rural roads, so there's a benefit there. Yet at the same time, they have to look out for the entire county as well. So I have to advocate for the sheriff's office first and foremost. That's my job. That's what the people elected me to do, and that's why I went up there and asked for the money. The commissioners have it different. They have to advocate for the sheriff's office, for public works, to make sure that's up and running and whatnot. And they need to make sure they're going to get the best bang for the buck. I promise to give them the best bang for the buck that I can provide them if I get deputies. I think Josephine County, it's not an end all, it's not a fix, but it could be a bridge. Something good could happen here in the next 2-3 years. Who knows? So that's why I want to get the sheriff's office in the game and get a couple people coming my way. But how it's going, I don't know. I think there's a lot of questions from Arthur and whatnot, and he has been relaying back to them, I'm sure. So, but we don't have it finalized yet. We have time. Cooler heads prevail, right? That's the plan.
That's the theory.
Yes. You know what? It kind of struck me as I was listening to this, Dale, is, he really was putting a sunny face on the negative feedback from the commissioners. And let me tell you, if it's something they want to do, there's no negativity there. It's all sunshine and roses. When it comes to something they actually want to do, they don't want to do this. If they do this, it's going to be because somebody, was, behind their back with a pipe wrench and a 6-foot cheater bar, You're muted.
Stop muting me. One of the things he said at the end of this, and it's in the full-length video. Full length? Oh, Dale. Yes, it's 5 hours long. One of the things in there that you can see is that he believes he's going to get this $1 million. That's why he's smiling in this picture. He thinks he's going to get the $1 million. Mike's not quite so sure. I think the commissioners are going to have to bow to pressure. I think that there's a chance that Cheryl Walker's going to say, no way, no how. But there's pressure that's being brought to bear, and it's not because people read about it in the Courier or listened to it on KJO. They're getting this information from somewhere. And they're seeing for themselves exactly what it is they're saying, and not something that's filtered through some kind of news medium that has a reason to do that. We're letting you know everything that's being said. And the reason he met with us so quickly is this is pretty important. Well, there's time. No, I think we'd all like an answer, and we have until next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, at which point they're supposed to vote on the entire budget. What are they going to do?
You know what? people should still come in and advocate for this. They really should, because it's only public pressure that is going to turn them at this point in time, because they don't want to do this. So the public wanting it and them feeling that there is rumblings out there. And you know, if they do this, it will only be because they understand that 2 years from now, there's a timeline that people look at and they go, well, they were pushing for the levy. Then there was an opportunity for them to take road dollars and put it into the sheriff. Oh, and they didn't do it. Boy, what does that mean? And believe me, if they don't do this and they push another levy, we can beat them severely with this. You know, every single time they come up to advocate for a levy, we can just say, well, look, they had an opportunity to take money out and put it in there and they didn't do it. They're not serious about this. You know, that's the club. It really is.